morning, everybody. Hello, welcome. We are going to be chatting about Zipper today, our corn snake ambassador. So come on in and let me know where you're from and what and your name, and I'll give you guys a shout out. But just so that everybody knows, we will have a snake with us today. So if you don't like snakes, this might not be the video for you. I am just going to turn on another light so that you guys can see. And then we'll get started with Mr. Zipper. Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Hello, welcome to our morning meeting. We are here with Zipper the corn snake. He is very, very sweet, but a lot of people don't like snakes, so I completely understand if you are choosing not to watch this video today. But he is very sweet and can teach a lot of people all the benefits of snakes and the good work that they do for us. So, so this is Zipper. Good morning, baby. Hi. Zipper is our little corn snake here at the Center for Wildlife. He's a very good boy. And he came to us after he was somebody's pet for a long period of time. And that person released or surrendered him to us because they could no longer take care of him. Lots of people will get corn snakes as pets. They are sold in the pet trade, and one of the most popular snakes in the pet trade because they're very calm, they don't get too large, they're pretty docile, but they do take a lot of work, and a lot of reptiles take a lot of work. So these guys are, not the right pet for everybody. And when you're getting a pet, it's always, really important to do the hard thinking on whichever species you're going to get. But these guys are bred and sold for the pet trade. So he came to us after he was sold in a pet store to a person who could no longer then take care of him. And Zipper has been with us for a long, long time. He's a good boy. He's been with us for probably around 12 or 13 years now. It's been a while. And he is somewhere between, 17 and 18, we believe. These guys can usually live well into their 20s. So that's another consideration when you're getting a snake as a pet, is how long they live. They can live a really, really long time, longer than a lot of other animal species. Here, I'll hold my camera closer to me so that you guys can hear me better. Thank you for letting me know, Perry. Oh, we twisted it. Thanks for letting me know. I think when I try to put my camera down on something else, sometimes it's harder to hear. But here is Zippy. Good morning. Hello. Hi, buddy. So I hope that that's better. And let me know if you guys have any trouble hearing me or anything like that, because we certainly want you guys to be able to hear. Zipper is kind of just trucking around on the counter right here. Hi, buddy. Hello. Corn snakes are fascinating animals. They are called corn snakes because they have originally have been found living in cornfields. They like to eat a lot of moles and small rodents, so they are typically found where those animals are. And actually, the farmers whose cornfields they live in are usually pretty happy to have them around because they do a lot of good in helping to keep rodent populations down and populations of animals that might do damage to the roots of their crops. So these guys help us out a lot. They help to, sorry guys, just working on it. Thank you. I know, he is so beautiful and so sweet. So he is actually probably, it may not look like it when he's just out on the table here, but he is actually around, around 6 feet long. He's pretty long. He just is very skinny, so he doesn't necessarily look as large. And there, yeah. So he doesn't look so large, but he is actually very, very sweet. Sorry guys, I think it's just because I'm moving the camera around. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better if I just hold it still. But Zipper here is who we're here to chat about today. Hi baby. Zipper is a species of corn snake. Corn snakes are not really native to the area that we're in Maine, but you guys might have them if you are like Connecticut and south. That's kind of where their range starts, but they really are a more southern species. And the type of snake that Zipper is actually one that was bred in captivity, so he is not what we would consider the wild type of snake. So these guys were bred in captivity. They are bred to be pets, and so this guy was never really intended to live out in the wild, but they do have wild counterparts. So the snakes that live out in the wild, you generally are not allowed to keep as pets, but these guys have been bred for the pet trade. He does have a very pretty underbelly, and you can kind of see it as he's turning around. Yeah. And that underbelly is another possible way that they were called corn snakes, because it kind of looks like native corn, but they you know, there are multiple reasons why he might be called a corn snake. You're a good boy. You can see he's doing a lot of wrapping around and moving around. He is a constrictor snake. So constrictors are snakes that will wrap around their prey to kill it instead of poisoning it. So they will wrap around their food. They'll use lots and lots and lots of muscles that they have in along their bodies. Here, I'm flipping the camera again. Hi. They'll use lots of muscles that run along their body. They have teeny tiny little muscles in between a ton of ribs that go all the way down their bodies, that help them to slither and wrap around their prey. So when they pounce on an animal, usually what they'll do is they'll form a ball with their body around a mouse or a small mammal or a bird even. And these guys, hello, you're so cute. These guys will wrap around their food and essentially suffocate it so it can't breathe anymore. And that's how they kill their prey, whereas a venomous snake would use venom that is produced in glands, usually back here on their head. And that's actually one of the ways you can tell Zipper is not a venomous snake, because his head is not as triangular in shape as a lot of venomous snakes are. They're pretty triangular, but his face is pretty narrow. Good morning to Louise. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Penelope. Hello. Good morning, Tanya and Perry. Good morning, Mary. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and staying with us, and I hope everything's better now in terms of the volume. As always, we have a donation button here on this video, and all of the proceeds go to support Mr. Zipper's care, as well as the care of our other ambassadors and patients. Zipper here is one of the few animals that we have at the Center for Wildlife that actually eats live prey. So every week during the summer months, we actually feed Zipper a live mouse, and that is because we have tried to give him not live mouse, dead mice that have been frozen and thawed, and he does not recognize it as food. So believe it or not, Zipper is a beautiful boy, but he is a very good little killer. And he is a predator, and snakes are wonderful predators, and they're really, really good for keeping rodent populations under control. If you have snakes outside in your yard, a lot of people will get scared of snakes. It's Perry, it's there. I'm seeing it on here that you guys are able to donate, so that should be available. But so Zipper here is a predator, and these guys are mostly predators. They eat a lot of different things, but if you have a snake in your yard, there is a really good chance that that snake is keeping mice from getting into your homes. So if anyone that you know is living in our area, living in Maine or northern New England, we are actually fairly fortunate around here that we have very few, we have no species of venomous snakes that live in Maine. So in Maine, all of our snakes are constrictors, like Zipper here. None of them are harmful to people. They are actually very beneficial to people. And most of the snake bites that occur are from people kind of messing with or harassing snakes or trying to harm them. And that snake is just trying to defend itself. So usually the snakes that we have in our area will not do us any harm unless we try to mess with them. And that's true of rattlesnakes even, or venomous snakes as well. You just have to be very careful with them. So the best thing that we can do when we encounter a snake is just let it be, just leave it alone. A lot of snakes also will shed their skin and get very cloudy when they're doing that. They actually are unable to see when they're about to shed the tiny, tiny little scales that actually completely go over their eye. And so many snakes will be more likely to bite and lunge when they are shedding, even domestic snakes, even snakes like Zipper. Zipper's never bitten anybody but these guys will occasionally, if they can't see, get more pouncy. They'll get more protective or defensive. Tanya says she has a ball python that won't eat frozen and thawed mice either. I know, I feel bad for the mouse, and it is the only, our other snake Elvis will eat frozen and thawed. And we have tried Zipper on frozen and thawed, but he is just not interested. I think it's a smell issue. These guys use their noses, or they have a little tiny gland at the top of their, at the roof of their mouth, and you can see him kind of sticking his tongue out periodically. He's actually smelling when he's doing that, so he's sniffing with his tongue. He's picking up little particles in the air and bringing them back into his mouth, and that little organ at the roof of his mouth called the Jacobson's organ detects the scents and kind of is analyzing what they are. So I think frozen and thawed mice just smell different and don't smell quite right. They also are not, unless we heat them up, which is tricky, they're not the right temperature. These guys are able to see heat, so they have like heat vision. It's really cool, infrared vision. And that is a major way that they hunt. So these guys will kind of seek out heat and recognize that as a prey animal. But Zippy here doesn't really, wouldn't really know that a frozen and thawed mouse was a prey animal unless we heated it up. And, you know, those little animals can have body temperatures of like 105 degrees. So that is very, very warm and tricky to accomplish. So he doesn't seem to like frozen and thawed mice, and that's okay. We just go, you know, buy a mouse, and he really only eats once a week in the summer. These guys will actually go months at a time in the winter where they will completely kind of stop eating and stop being active. They'll go kind of dormant for the winter season. We don't necessarily let them get too cold, but they do get a little bit chillier, and that slows them down. These guys are cold-blooded animals, so they are unable to keep themselves warm. They are, you know, really relying on the temperatures around them in the room or in their enclosure to help them to keep their bodies going, keep their cells going. And in the winter, there's just not enough energy in the atmosphere or in their area to digest food. So they're not moving around as much, they're not using as many calories, and they're also not eating as much. He is beautiful, Elaine. We love Zipper. He is so gorgeous. These guys do sometimes get mistaken for copperhead snakes. They have similar colorations, but copperheads tend to be much more dull in color. They're usually a dull brown, and corn snakes are usually very, very vibrant oranges. They also are, they have different shapes on them. Copperheads tend to have more regular shapes, and these guys tend to have more irregular shapes that look kind of like saddles on their back, but they do sometimes get confused. They are not native to Maine, Kimberly. These guys are a southern species. Zipper was bred and sold in the pet trade to somebody who then relinquished him to us because they couldn't take care of him anymore. So we love to educate about these types of snakes, about constrictor snakes as a whole, because that is the only type of snake that we have in Maine, are constrictors. So there are 5 species of snakes in Maine, and they are all constrictors. Even our water snakes are harmless. So these guys are a great representative for those types of snakes. They're sometimes also called red rat snakes, and we do have kind of a cousin of that called the black rat snake that lives here in Maine. So we have lots of different types of constrictors here. We have milk snakes, which are very similar in kind of shape and size to these guys, and they are very, very sweet. So we love to educate about snakes, especially here in Maine, where we can, you know, tell people freely, don't worry about it, none of them are venomous. In New Hampshire, there is one extant population of venomous timber rattlesnakes up in the White Mountains, but they are so rare and actually critically endangered in that state. The biologists that study them keep their location a secret to keep people from harming them or harassing them. So you're incredibly unlikely to ever encounter a venomous snake in New Hampshire. And then probably Western Mass is the next closest area where you would find them. But they are very rare up north, and then the more south you go, the more warm you go in area, the more common poisonous snakes will get, or venomous snakes rather. But even, you know, rattlesnakes or venomous snakes, they are generally not interested in hurting people. They are truly usually more afraid of us than we are of them. And that's one of the biggest things that we try to teach people here, is that snakes do a lot of good for us, and they very rarely ever, you know, intend to harm us. They know that they could not possibly eat a human. They know that they are, you know, they think of us as big, scary predators and are much more interested in protecting themselves than hurting us. So if they are left alone, they usually will just go on their way. And as I mentioned, most of the time when people do get bitten by snakes, it's because they're either harassing them or trying to pick them up, or trying to harm them, and the snake is just kind of defending itself. So we love our snakes here. They're wonderful to keep our rodent populations in check. We get a lot of snakes here at the center that come into us because people find them either when they're mowing their lawns, unfortunately, and they get hit by a lawnmower. That can sometimes happen. They are usually pretty well camouflaged, especially our garter snakes. You guys probably see a lot of those guys. We also had a couple of them come to us this spring on those warm days in the spring when it thaws out, but it's not quite spring yet. It hasn't quite warmed up enough. These guys will sometimes emerge a little bit prematurely from hibernation, and so we had a couple of snakes that Good Samaritans brought to us that you know, had emerged from hibernation too early and wouldn't have made it, you know, through those kind of early spring, late winter storms that we have in those cold temperatures. It was a very chilly spring too. But those guys were able to be released. We also had a milk snake that had a little bit of a wound on him that got released. We had a big snake year. We usually only get maybe 1 or 2 snakes as patients a year. People generally don't rescue them as often, but this year we had, I think, 5 or 6, so not a whole lot, but certainly more than we used to get. And that usually they make up, you know, 5 or 6 of those guys make up a little bit of a percentage of our reptile patients, which are like usually around 100 and 150 a year. So, are you exploring? Hi. You're so cute. These guys are wonderful climbers. So Zipper loves to explore vertical areas. So we try to give him lots of enrichment that he can climb on. So these guys love to climb. They are very, very strong and powerful, and they can climb and support their bodies from back here and, you know, reach all the way up into the air. So he is loving climbing around, exploring. He's smelling different things. This is great enrichment for him. He's very sweet. If you guys have any other questions about Zipper, I would be happy to answer them. He's a very sweet boy, and he'd be happy to with us for a while. So please let me know if anyone has any other questions about him or snakes in general. I know it is kind of soothing to watch him just kind of truck around. He's very, very good. Yeah, where are you going? And the scale pattern is also quite mesmerizing. The cool thing is that the scale pattern on the top of his body, the ventral side is what we call this, the top side, or the dorsal side rather. The top side is the dorsal side, like a dorsal fin. The scales here are a different shape. They're that typical diamond shape that we associate with scales. And then on the underside of him, they turn into this square shape that you can see. And that square shape is helping him to kind of slither along a little bit easier. So it's smooth down here. And that's to allow him to slither along and not get his scales stuck on things. So he actually recently shed. That's why he's so beautiful and shiny. Thank you so much, Louise. That is so sweet of you to donate. Where are you going? Don't hide behind the stapler. I know. That is so sweet of you to donate. Good job, Zippy. Thank you. And all of those donations go right back to the care of these guys. We are a nonprofit, so they are very essential to how we are able to do our work. So thank you so much. You bought him a mouse. That's great. Zipper here is one of our snake ambassadors that we have. He is our he's one of our 2 ambassador snakes that we have. He's our corn snake, and then we also have a king snake named Elvis, who you guys have probably met before. Thank you so much, Louise, for joining us today and for donating. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and you can join us tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Hi, baby. Aww. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If anyone has any other questions, please let me know. We're happy to stay and hang out on our cool summer, our warm summer days. We like to hang out with Zipper because he is generally pretty cool to the touch, and he kind of helps us to cool down, and then we help him to warm up. So he likes to snuggle and hang out with us. He's a good, sweet little boy. So we're happy to stay and answer any questions that you guys have about snakes. Snakes are really fascinating animals. There are a lot of myths about snakes that people believe but don't really haven't really heard, the science behind. So one of them is that they unhinge their jaws, and they do this to eat food that is larger than their heads. So if you think about the size of a mouse, that would be a fair bit bigger than his head, probably like twice the size in diameter. But what snakes are able to do is stretch their jaws really, really far out to get completely around an animal that is much larger than them. Oh, thanks, Katie. That's sweet. I washed it. That's that's what happened. The humidity has also made it much curlier than it usually is. But they are able to stretch their mouths open quite wide to get an animal into their mouth that's larger than their face. And people think that they unhinge their jaw to do this, but the truth is that their jaws really didn't have hinges to begin with. So they don't have a joint here like we do that attaches their lower jaw to their upper jaw. They just have 4 segments of bones that make up their jaw. And those bones are actually unattached. They are really only held together by tendons and ligaments, and they can stretch those and actually completely open their jaws this way, so up and down, as well as side to side. So they can stretch their mouths open really, really wide and accommodate larger food than their heads. So they kind of unhinge their jaw, but the truth is that they really didn't have hinges in their jaws to begin with. Hi, buddy. The other myth about snakes that a lot of people think, and I think it's just because of the way that they move and look, they think that snakes don't have bones because they're so slithery and kind of move around a lot in this odd way. But they actually do have bones. They have a lot of bones. They have more bones than we have. They have a spine that runs all the way down their body, and hundreds of teeny tiny little ribs that will, actually I have a little snake skeleton right here. This is from a garter snake, but all of these tiny little ribs will come off of that long spine, and in between each of those ribs is a muscle called an intercostal muscle, just like the muscles that help us to move our rib cage side to side. They have a ton of those, and that's how they slither. They are able to slither, and the reason that they feel squishy to the touch, why people might think when they feel them that they don't have much, bone to them, is because they're feeling all those muscles. So they have incredibly long muscles. they're very, very interesting animals. But thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. Kristen will be here tomorrow with another ambassador for you guys. And we'll be doing these every day for the rest of the month. So thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, Zippy. Nice job. Good boy. He says, I'm tired out. I got all my exercise. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.